What's going on, YouTube? Levi of Old Iron Off-Road out here again on the 800 Rockcrawler project. I'm sure you're probably tired of seeing this thing. Hopefully not, because I'm not tired of working on it, and we've still got a ton more progress to make on this thing before we can actually call it road ready. So stick around, plenty more videos to come. If this is your first time to the channel, we're into international scouts, obviously. But we're also into off-road, we're into custom fabrication, welding, four-wheel drive, crazy cut-up suspension, engine swaps. If you're into any of those things, take 2 seconds, reach down there, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, leave us a comment. We'd really appreciate it. So I was gonna breeze right through all of this. I was gonna just smoke through it and not film any of it, and I decided, no, this is too good not to film. So you can see where we're at. Last video we left off, we had the 3-link completed. We've got everything pushed up to full bump, and you can also see tucked neatly in there. We've got our bump pads built, and we've got our bump cans and bump stops mounted and mocked up. So we are at true full bump. So now the next logical step in this process is to go ahead and work out the coilover mount. So with the rust removal that we did on the front of this vehicle, it just made sense that we were going to tube out the front section, and that's kind of been the plan all along. So you can buy coilover towers and you can buy a lot of other mounting systems for coilovers, but since we were going to be tubing the front of this thing out, it just made sense to go ahead and work the coilover mounts into the inner structure of the front of this vehicle, which you can see we have already got a jump on today. To measure off of the front lip to the back side of this and clip that off, make some tube flanges to mount it to the firewall, and we'll have the first part of this structure actually built and in place. Then we can start running our drops and figuring out where the coilovers are actually going to land on this guy. So without further ado, let's get into it. 4.5 in the front of this thing is actually somewhat square, surprisingly. So we're going to take this guy back 4.5 inches at first, and then we'll sneak up on where we need to be. So we've got this guy cut to length, but before I go any further, I want to go ahead and get these brackets drawn up. We're going to jump over on the CAD software, get something drawn and cut out, and we'll be back in just a second. So we got our bracket cut out. Get this guy mocked up on the firewall, get some holes drilled, and we'll be able to get this guy welded into place. So we got that guy in there. We're gonna cut a couple more tubes. We're actually gonna tie another tube in from about right here, back down into the toe board, and then we're gonna have a couple more drops straight down to the chassis, and we can fill in the gaps for the coilovers from there. So we've taken a little hiatus, but we're back out in the shop, and I did manage to get a few things done off camera. You can see we've got the tabs in place to support the body, as well as the lower coilover mount. Wanted to go ahead and get that squared away so we could actually start working on the upper coilover mount. Nothing super fancy. Just blasted out a little tab on the plasma table and buzzed it in there. So next order of business is to secure the top portion of the coilover. And I think what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna come down into this or off of this with a tube, drop down, come back, and then turn back up into this. So it should be reasonably simple, and we'll see what happens. Let's get to it. So now that we've got these hoops built, I think the next logical step is to basically build a bracket that comes off of here and swoops back up into the underside of this tube. And that'll take care of the upper shock mounts. So cut this out of thin sheet metal just so I knew what we were getting into, just to test fit before we get too crazy. And we're about a quarter off either side, so need to lengthen each end by about a quarter, and I think we'll be ready to go. Well, that took some doing, but we've got our upper coilover mounts tacked in. Super happy with how they came out. And I've also dropped the axle to ride height. I need to mount some coil springs onto the shocks and be sure I'm gonna have plenty of room, but I mean, I've got 3 fingers, almost a whole hand width between the chassis and the back of the coilover. I don't see any real reason why we should have any interference issues. Man, I'm stoked. Those turned out nice. I'm happy with those. What's going on? Man, you didn't know we lived in the Arctic tundra, did you? So yeah, had a rough go at it lately. I'm gonna address the elephant in the room, my face. Don't play with herpes, kids. No, we've had a rough go lately. I try to be pretty transparent in my videos. We did some traveling and ended up picking up the flu. Came home and was super sick. Pretty high grade fever, stress, all that good stuff. So
We ended up with the largest cold sore I've ever had in my entire life. Stress. My dad has just, he actually passed yesterday. So, he's been sick for a while. He's actually been fighting liver cancer. I was kind of overcoming that, and there's been a lot of other medical issues. He had a stroke and ended up in the hospital, ended up with COVID in the hospital, and ultimately that's what did him in. So prayers for my family, and we're just trying to make it through. But yeah, cold sore, deal with it. Anywho, so we're trying to get some headspace today. We're out in the shop, and I think it's time to drag in the 14-bolt axle. We got this guy, late model, disc brake, drum and hat style. Somebody got all the good out of that rotor. We're gonna get the tractor fired up, get that guy in the shop, and at least get it stripped down and all the brackets cut off of it, and see if we can get some gears and locker things thrown in it. Let's make it happen. We gotta unearth the tractor. This is ridiculous. If I wanted to live somewhere where it snowed like this, I'd live somewhere where it's supposed to snow like this. So, this tractor has been one of the best cold starting tractors I've ever owned. And I've grew up on a farm, so we've dealt with a lot of tractors that didn't want to do anything when it was much below freezing. So it's probably, I know it was 12 degrees this morning, so we'll see how this thing starts. It'll be interesting. Hopefully the ignition's not frozen. Oh, sweet. Clutch pedal. Ooh, yeah. The battery said no, thank you. Give her one more try. We'll go grab a jump pack, see what she'll do. I think the tractor would be willing if the battery wasn't so cold. Oh, baby. Give it to me. Feels a little down. That's pretty impressive. Bird. One humper chunk of axle in the shop. Bird. Get cold. Try to get some of the trash off of it. Get it busted down, get everything off of it, kind of take a solid inventory of where we're at. So I saw a thing the other day that said that you don't have any business building an off-road truck unless you're 100% completely okay with setting a $100 bill on fire. And I feel that, like on a deep level.
Got the diff cover pulled off of this guy, and we were hoping for an open carrier, and unfortunately we have a gov lock in this, which is less than ideal, and I can't use the grizzly locker that I have with this carrier. So one more piece of the puzzle to purchase is going to be a open diff, 410 and down open diff, because we do have a set of 513 thick cut gears to go in this guy. So we're going to order one of those. Next thing I'm not 100% sure about are the mechanical e-brake on this guy. I had in my mind to run a line lock, but now I'm kind of torn. I think with the forward link and the way the cables are oriented on this thing, I think we can actually have a functional mechanical e-brake. The only issue that I can really see with running the mechanical e-brake is going to be typical off-road scenarios where drum brakes would be less than ideal as far as debris and mud and things getting packed into the brake mechanism and prematurely wearing things out and or causing them not to function well. So leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Should we run a line lock, a hydraulic line lock, and gut the e-brake, or should we stick with the mechanical e-brake? Now we're down to a point, I'm gonna go ahead and get the hubs torn off of this guy, get the e-brake stuff out of the way, and we can go ahead and get the rest of these remaining brackets cut off of the axle. Get this to a pretty clean slate where we can install the Artec truss on this guy. Like I said, we'll just have to wait for an open carrier before we can get the gears put in it. So I managed to spend some time out here yesterday and got all the unnecessary bracketry chopped off of the tubes, and now I have probably an hour of grinding ahead of me. Also managed to order up some other parts. We already talked about burning $100 bills, and I've got ordered the carrier, ordered a standard open carrier for this guy, and I've also decided to go ahead and stick with the mechanical e-brake. So luckily I was able to find fully loaded backing plates and all that good stuff. So literally ordered all the stuff I need to finish this rear axle from center to wheel hubs. And we've also ordered everything else that we needed for the front axle as far as wheel bearings and rotors and all that stuff. And I don't know if I've mentioned, maybe I have, but we've got all our stuff from Brannick, some 4340 goodness. And we also went with our 4340 series U-joints, 1480. And these guys actually don't have any needle bearings. They literally ride on a film of grease. And there's some O-rings in there. You're supposed to grease them every 10 hours, which I would say is going to be pretty critical to keeping these guys alive. But stupid strong full circle snap rings. So I'd hoped to get the carrier in this guy, and obviously that's going to kind of put me behind waiting on the carrier. But in the meantime, I am going to go ahead, get the Artec axle truss tacked together, get the pinion guard all welded up, get the truss welded on, and get the pinion guard and stuff all set up and in place. That way, when we get the carrier, we can just go ahead and slam the gears in, slide this guy under. I've also got the lower axle side link brackets and the uppers coming from Artec as well. So here, pretty quick, we ought to be able to get this rear axle under the truck. So I'm gonna put some music on and put you in time lapse, and we're gonna do some grinding on this axle. We're gonna grind until we can't feel feelings, and we'll get this axle truss all tacked together and on. we got a nice fit up on everything. Got the truss tacked in. This cut to fit. This all pinion guard all bolted up. I think that's all we've got for this video, seeing as how we're mainly waiting on parts at this point in time. Make sure to hang out. I believe on the next video, we'll get some gear stuffed in this guy, get started on the rear fore link. I appreciate you guys at home taking the time to watch these videos. Make sure to subscribe, like, leave us a comment, and as always, enjoy.